Alright, so let's continue on how to integrate the 5 approaches of ethical considerations to make decisions in conducting social scientific research. We should know that making good ethical decisions really requires a trained sensitivity to ethical issues and a practiced method for exploring the ethical aspects of decision and weighing the considerations that should impact our choice of a course of action. In other words, to be an ethical researcher or to be able to judge the ethical standards of other people's practice, including research, really is a long-term practice or requires long-term practice and specific training. So this course is designed to expose ourselves to the very basics of research ethics, right? So I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to be how to comply to all the ethical aspects of conducting research. So this course is helping me too, right? Um, so that's given that consideration, right? So to be a ethical researcher, it requires long-term training. Then it will be the best if we could have a method for ethical decision making. So when practiced regularly, the method becomes very familiar, that we work through it automatically without consulting the specific steps. The more novel and difficult ethical choices we face, the more we need to rely on discussion and dialogue with others about the dilemma. It's only by careful exploration of the problem, aided by the insights and different perspectives of others, can we make good ethical decisions or choices in various situations. So here we'll present a framework for ethical decision making, and this framework entails 5 steps. The first step is recognize an ethical issue. The second step is to get the facts. Third is to evaluate alternative actions. Fourth is to make a decision and test it. Lastly is to act and should we reflect on the outcome, right? So let's go through these steps one by one. To recognize an ethical issue, essentially to ask yourself this question, right? Could this decision or situation be damaging to someone or to some group? Does this decision, whatever action we're trying to do, for example, in conducting social scientific research, if we would like to induce a manipulation or ask some questions, we should be asking ourselves this question, right? Would the inclusion of this question involve the choice between a good and a bad alternative, right? Could it be hurting to some people? Recognizing ethical issues also entails asking the question whether the issue is about more than what is legal or what is more efficient. Second step is to get the facts. Essentially, we should ask ourselves, okay, so what are some relevant facts of the case? What are some facts known and what are some facts unknown? Can I hear more about the situation, right? So in conducting research, that will be asking ourselves, okay, so to test a specific idea, to test a specific relationship between two variables, do I have all the knowledge that I need to design a good test of our hypothesis without resorting to unethical practices? The next step of getting the facts entails asking the question, what individuals or groups are involved, and do they have important stakes in the outcome, right? So that speaks to paying attention to our study populations. Also, we should ask ourselves what the options are for acting, right? Have we consulted all the relevant persons and groups when we're designing specific actions? That is, when we're designing our studies, for example, have we taken consideration all the groups that to be affected? Have we talked to them? Do we have some basic knowledge or cultural sensitivity towards those people so that we can best design our research practices? The next step is to evaluate alternative actions. So this step entails asking the following questions, right? Which option will produce the most good and do the least harm? If you recall from the previous lecture, this is essentially the utilitarian approach. We can also ask ourselves, well, which option will best respect the rights of all those who have a stake? Sorry, not a typo. And this will be the rights approach. We can also ask ourselves, which option treats people equally or fairly, right? This will be the justice approach. The common good approach would suggest the question of which option best serves the community as a whole. Lastly, the virtual approach will suggest the question on which option leads me to act as the sort of person I want to be. So after weighing all the options, then we should make a decision and test the result of the decision, right? So considering all the approaches, the utilitarian approach, the rights approach, the justice approach, the common good approach, and the virtual approach, which option or which options best address the situation, right? Another very useful thing to do is, if you can't decide, then you should ask someone that you respect, or you imagine the situation where you ask someone they respect this question and think how they will answer your question, right? So that will help too. Okay, lastly, you need to act and reflect on the outcome. That is, how can my decision be implemented with the greatest care and attention to the concerns of all stakeholders? Lastly, you should be very cautious and have great awareness of how your decision turned out and what you have learned from this specific situation. Okay? Alright, that will complete our special topics on research ethics number 3, and I'll update the slides very soon. Okay? Again, an apology for my very weird voices, and that's because the pain of having braces finally caught up. I'll do my best. Again, I'm sorry. Ask me questions if you have questions about the slides. All right. See you next time.